I'm beginning to understand the importance of living proactively and not reactively. And I don't just mean that in the sense of you in relation to other people. I mean that in the relation to your spirit versus the world. I'm starting to understand that if you truly want anything in this life, if you really truly want to have something, if you really truly want to accomplish something, it's really about living proactively and not reactively. It's about aligning your spirit with what you want rather than what the world is showing you. It's about aligning your actions, your identity with what you want rather than what the world is showing you. And in doing that, you're almost just naturally aligning yourself with what you want. You're aligning yourself with the position of having said thing. And in doing so, you're allowing that thing to appear in your life. The way I visualize it is literally just someone looking at the world versus someone looking at themselves. It's in the sense that if you're constantly reacting to what the world is showing you, when you're going to have the opportunity to substantiate in the world what you want, you're never going to have the opportunity. You're never going to be in a position where that is possible. So it's really just about substantiating what you want in your own spirit. And it's about recognizing the amount of control that you do have over yourself, but then also the lack of control that you have over everything else. It's about recognizing that the only thing that's truly in your control is yourself. Your thoughts, your actions, your emotions, all these things. And obviously within reason, just because I know different medical conditions and different conditions and stuff exist. But it's almost about recognizing the amount of power that you have over yourself. And in doing so, you're also almost recognizing the amount of, or the lack of power that you have outside of you. You know, you can influence anything outside of you, the same way I can pick up this pen. But you don't have the ability to create anything outside of you. You don't have the ability to truly substantiate anything outside of you. You can only influence it, you cannot control it. It's not our position to control what's outside of us. That's God's job. That's not for us, that's for God. But it's about recognizing that God doesn't judge you based on the circumstances you find yourself in. He judges you based on the way that you act. He judges you based on the things that are in your control. So it's about recognizing that you have complete control over yourself. And in doing so, it then just goes along with what I was saying earlier, that if you're constantly reacting to what the world is showing you, if the world is constantly throwing you a punch and then you need to dodge, when are you going to have the time? When are you going to finally substantiate the punch of your own to the world? And that sounds a bit, violent, and it sounds a bit contrasting, but I don't mean that in the sense that you and the world are in conflict. That's not what I mean. I just mean that it's important that you almost focus on what you want rather than what you don't want. It's about, sowing what you want rather than focusing on the reapings of what you don't want. Because I think that if we're constantly focused on the things that we don't want, then ultimately that's all we're going to achieve. That's all we're going to have. If you're constantly focused on the things of the world, how are you ever going to substantiate something new in the world that wasn't there before? If you're constantly focused on the numbers 1 through 10, how are you ever going to see a 12? How are you ever going to see a 13, an 11? So it's really just about substantiating what you want in the moment. It's about substantiating and recognizing that you have the possibility, you have the option of substantiating these things within yourself in the present moment. And in doing so, one, you almost stop desiring the thing in the physical world. You stop desiring the thing outside of you because you can't control anything outside of you. And two, you all end up literally just aligning yourself with that thing to begin with. It's about recognizing that I made a different video on this, but to desire is to not have. To want something is to not have it. So if you're constantly wanting something outside of you, then you're never going to have anything outside of you. So, and it's almost about recognizing, like I said, that you don't have any control outside of you as well. But if you have the option, because you're in complete control of yourself, your thoughts, your emotions, if you have the option of substantiating whatever emotions, whatever feelings that you want, then why don't you do that in the present moment? Because I'm starting to understand that even though, like I said, we don't have control over anything outside of us, I also don't think that we really want anything outside of us. Outside of, obviously basic human needs, things like that. It's about recognizing that anything that we do want, any material possession, any, feeling, or no, I'll even just go back to that. Any material possession that we don't truly want that thing. We want the feeling that it would give to us. We want the experience of having that thing. So it's about recognizing that that's something that we could substantiate for ourselves in the present moment. It's like oh, once I have this much money, then I'll be happy. But that's not true, because that happiness is something you could give yourself right now. You don't need to have $1 million in the bank to feel like a millionaire. It's about substantiating the feeling of being a millionaire in the present moment, regardless of how much money is in your bank. And that's what I mean by acting and living proactively and not reactively. Not caring about what's outside in the world, but focusing on what you want, focusing on substantiating that experience, that feeling in the present moment. Because in doing so, you stop wanting the $1 million, because then it's just like, oh, this is just a sheet of paper. Like, this has no meaning to me. Any feeling, any experience I could gain from it is something I've already given myself. And maybe not experience, because I think that, physically there are a lot of restrictions that not having a certain thing can give. But I really am saying in the feeling sense, in the spiritual sense. Any feeling that you could substantiate, any feeling that you think that you could have from being a millionaire is something that you could give to yourself right now. And it's about recognizing that you have the ability to give yourself that right now. The feeling of being a millionaire does not necessarily need to be it doesn't necessarily need to be conditional. There's no prerequisite of you having $1 million to then feel like a millionaire. And I think that in feeling like a millionaire, you then literally become a millionaire. I mean, first it's in the spiritual sense, but I think that if you're able to maintain that feeling, if you're able to align yourself with that, then inevitably it'll just happen in the physical world as well. It's about recognizing how much power that we have over our own feelings, over our own emotions, and ignoring the things of this world and being transformed by the renewing of our minds. Being transformed, changing in your mind, changing in your spirit, and in doing so, the world will just naturally conform to that. But if we're always conforming to the world, then when is the world going to conform to us? If we're constantly being overpowered by the world, when will the world be overpowered by us? If the world is constantly substantiating things in our minds, in our emotions, in our feelings, in our spirits, when are we then going to conform our spirits, our feelings, and our emotions to the world? I think I said that a little bit backwards, but you get what I mean. It's about recognizing, like I said, how much power that you have over yourself. And it's about recognizing that that power then can be translated. It can be something experienced in the outside world as well. But like I said, the greatest part about it is that once you give yourself something in feeling, in spirit, then you no longer want it in the world. Because then what difference does it make? Oh, I wanted this car. Oh, but I feel like I have this car right now, even though physically I don't have it. If I feel like it, then what's the difference? Literally, what difference does it make? It's just a piece of metal. It's just something that I leave outside. It doesn't mean anything. It means something because we allow it to mean something. It has meaning because we give it meaning. So what if we give ourselves the meaning of having that car? What if we give ourselves that feeling right now? Then we no longer want it, and we already reap every benefit from having it. Any feeling, any emotion that we could have from having it, it's something that we give to ourselves right now. Any thought of having it, it's something we can give to ourselves right now. So it's really about living proactively and not reactively. Not waiting until the world transforms for you to transform, but transforming so that the world can transform. I have a Bible verse that's related to the topic of this video. It's taken from 2 Corinthians 9 verse 16, or 9 verse 6. And it says, remember this, whoever sows sparingly will also reap sparingly, and whoever sows generously will also reap generously. So I think that the sowing really just comes in the renewing of our mind, in the transforming of our minds and our spirits. It's about recognizing that I think that as long as we're constantly reacting to what the world is showing us, then our internal state, what we actually have, will always only be what the world has for us right now. We'll never be able to go out of that and get more. But I think that if we recognize how much power that we have in sowing in our own minds, in our own spirits, in our own emotions, whatever it is that we want, then the world will then transform to that. It's, like I said, I don't want to use this analogy because it seems like they're in conflict and whatnot, but it's like a boxing match. If you're constantly dodging what the world is showing you, constantly dodging, constantly, then when are you ever going to have the ability to take a punch of your own? But I think if we switch that, if we allow ourselves to then start punching back, then the world will be the one that starts dodging. The world will be the one that starts to almost align with who we are internally. It's about recognizing that constantly we see the external as a means of changing the internal, but we should really see the internal as a means of changing the external. And the best part about that is that once you change the internal, then you no longer care about the external, but it's something that changes in anyways. So I hope you took something from this video. It's something I've been thinking about a lot, and I'm just having such like a great deep understanding of it now. So I hope you took something from it, and thank you for watching.